Hello, I'm Amanda Orlando and welcome to my channel. Let's spill the tea. Should your significant other consume your allergen? Very divisive topic indeed. So I am allergic to peanuts, tree nuts, dairy, soy protein, and any kind of legume. And my husband does eat my allergens. This is something that shocks a lot of people, and honestly, if I'm ever at like a talk or a community event and the conversation kind of goes quiet, I just bring up this topic and suddenly there's so much discussion because people have completely opposing viewpoints on this. So I'll start out by saying, although in our relationship I'm comfortable with him eating my allergens, I'm not saying that everyone should be like this. I'm not trying to prescribe how you should live your life because everyone's allergy situation is completely unique to themselves. There are people who are comfortable with them consuming their allergen anytime, comfortable with them consuming their allergen when they're not together, or comfortable with them consuming their allergen when they are at public events or in restaurants. There are people who are not comfortable with it at all anytime, so they want their partner to give up the allergen entirely. And this is sort of what I've gleaned over my years of going to teen and adult with food allergy community events and conferences. It just seems like these are really the categories that people kind of roughly fit into. Let's take a look at a typical night of he and I grabbing some takeout food on like a Saturday night. Heading out to get my husband a slice of cheesecake. How happy are you about it?
Extremely happy.
Good. Got his cheesecake and now we're gonna get this man some Indian food. And why are you wearing gloves?
Because there's butter on my
Because, not because you're a serial killer?
No.
Okay, good.
Decontaminating the living room.
Why is that? Because you love me.
It's as if it never happened.
Clean slate.
Clean slate.
Let us analyze this clip. I love going for the walk. I love having the outing. If I was in a restaurant while he's ordering or whatever and I start to get uncomfortable because of, either there's like grease in the air or something that's irritating me, I would just leave. You'll notice when he came home, he very carefully ate his food, didn't get anything anywhere, immediately wrapped it up, wore gloves, was very sanitary, and then disposed of the packaging immediately. And there are some rules that he developed too, like he doesn't like eating nuts and peanuts around me. That's something that he came to on his own, and I'm appreciative of it. And I'll add that I don't have an airborne allergy, so I have, been around nuts or dairy or things like that before, and the smell has never bothered me. So I think if you're smell reactive, then of course that's a totally different story. The level of reactivity or the circumstances under which you might react can have a really big impact on your comfort level around your allergens. Something that I've also noticed about how people handle their food allergies in their relationships has a lot to do with how food allergies were handled in their home when they were kids. In my house, my brother has food allergies and my mom has food allergies. My dad doesn't. And all of our allergies are not the same. So we actually had each other's allergens in our home. And I think because of that, we became more comfortable having them around because we just kind of learned to live adjacent to them without coming in contact with them. So the same kind of rule applies as an adult because I already have that comfort level. I used to work in a restaurant and handled my allergens every day. And so I think I have these comfort zones that as long as I'm not worried about ingesting the allergen and I'm not worried about my husband kissing me after he's had an allergen, then I'm generally comfortable. Sometimes when that comfort level is broken would be like if we're at someone else's house and they have shelled nuts around or shelled nuts? Nuts in shells? Because then the oils are like, then people are touching them and the oils are everywhere and like shaking your hands and hugging, blah, blah, blah. That's overwhelming for me, but we don't have those types of situations in our own home. And again, this is like to each their own. Everyone has their own way of managing their allergy. I've told this story a million times, but I'm gonna tell it again. We started dating in university. So then we went on our third date and we went to Starbucks and we were having coffee, and I ordered my black coffee like usual, and he had like something with milk in it, and I didn't say anything. And then we got to class and he went to kiss me goodbye and like bent down to kiss me, and I panicked and I ducked right under his arm and like physically like ran away from him, and I sort of turned over my shoulder and I was like, I have food allergies, and just like ran away. I mean, it was embarrassing like for both of us. He texted me and he was like, what just happened? And I was like, oh, I felt really embarrassed to tell you, but actually I have food allergies and had milk in your coffee. I'm allergic to milk, so I couldn't kiss you. And then he was like, well, you could have just told me. Like, and he was like, you know, you should just own it. Like, just own it. Don't be embarrassed of who you are. Just be confident in yourself. And he was right, and I should have just told him. It was a big adjustment for him because he didn't have anyone with food allergies in his life prior to moi. He was like, okay, I'm gonna give up all of your allergens. And as you might recall, I have many allergens. So that was like impossible. It was impossible. It was just not feasible, and it wouldn't have been sustainable for him to give up my allergens forever. And I also just wouldn't want him to like have a loss of his own culture, because that would mean like not eating in his restaurants or like not eating at like family or social events like within his community. And I wouldn't want that. Like, I always say I like to see him eating and enjoying things that like he likes.
I mean, if he's hungry, like, I'm gonna ask him to not eat. Like, have him laying there starving. Like, no, I can't do that.
I know how restraining it can feel, and I don't want him to experience that, and I don't want him to feel like he has to do that for me. Like, I just thought of another point, that if your significant other has to do any kind of like work entertaining, like lunches or whatever, it can be really difficult to avoid allergens. And like in a business setting, oh my god, you can see Larry David behind me. That's so awkward. Yeah, it can be really difficult in a work setting. So if they can't manage that, it's like, in my opinion, it would be kind of an unrealistic expectation for me to ask him to manage that when he like goes for lunches and dinners for work all the time. Does that make sense? I think I got that. Yeah, that works. Sustainability was really important to me when we were kind of, and I don't think we ever like sat down and said like, okay, how are we gonna manage these allergens? But as it comes up in discussion over time, something that I know we can both handle for the long term is really important to me. And so initially he gave up the allergens, and as I said, it was impossible. So I was just like, please continue eating like a normal person. Instead, he just started, you know, brushing his teeth more often, avoiding the allergens on the days that he saw me. And those were all things like until we got a lot more comfortable. And then once we moved in together, it was like, okay, if you're going to have my allergens, they're going to be separated here, and I'm not comfortable with peanuts and nuts. Oh, you don't want to eat peanuts and nuts in front of me? That's even better. You come to these decisions as a couple. I wanted it to be something that we discussed together and like came to a comfortable, trustworthy, you know, agreement, like way of handling it. Sometimes people mess up, and I think there are different ways that mistakes can be interpreted. If someone's coming from a background where, you know, they've never had any experience living with food allergies, it's gonna be a big learning curve for them. But if they have the desire to learn, as he had, you know, he had the desire to learn, he wanted me to trust him, he tried to give up the allergens, you know, without me even asking, like a lot of effort was made to understand. And so that's how we built trust over time. But of course, people still mess up. There were times when he thought if he mouthwashed, that would be okay enough to kiss me, and then I'd get hives. And fortunately, nothing more serious ever happened after that. But those are the learning experiences where I thought, okay, I know he's really putting in his best effort, and this is just, you know, an honest mistake. Let's take this as an education opportunity. So mouthwash isn't enough. And then from there, he learned, and he said, okay, I'm gonna do that going forward, and he took it really seriously. I think the times that it becomes an issue is if someone's messing up because they don't care, if someone's messing it up and trying to blame it on you, if someone is messing up because they weren't taking the initiative to learn, those are situations where I would say, does that person really have your best interest at heart. So when someone is learning, it's a difficult balance because on the one hand, anaphylactic food allergies are a life-threatening condition and a very minor slip-up can result in something really serious. But on the other hand, there's also, educating someone, being patient, and almost being hyper aware until you find that they've reached a point where they have enough awareness that you can place that trust in them. I've lived with this my whole life. No one's gonna know my body better than I do. And now it's at the point with my husband where it is so comfortable that he even knows like what my hives mean. And he knows like when they're serious real hives and when they're just like, my urticaria is flaring up or something. So it's really nice to not feel alone in this. Like something that I would say for teens and young adults who are starting to date or who are actively dating but really don't know how to manage this, should your significant other eat your allergen, I would say that do some research and then most importantly form your own opinion, because what works in one relationship isn't a one size fits all for every relationship. Some people have multiple allergens, some people have one allergen. They can be more common, less common, depending on where you are, the cuisine, the culture, like access to ingredients, financial means, all of these things can have such a huge impact on how you manage your food allergies in your life. And that's why everyone's situation is completely unique. But I hope this video has been interesting at least. Bye.